In this lesson, we'll learn about detail, which is your noise reduction and sharpening. So I've opened up this image. It's the Photoshop 3 file because it's a good example of a photo with digital noise in it. You can see the settings of the camera here. If you shot in RAW and depending on your camera, you should be able to see all this metadata. It was shot at 32,000 ISO, which is really high. So if I zoom in here, you can see that this photo has a lot of digital noise, all these little speckles that basically make this photo not so clean looking. If you're zoomed in and you want to move around the photo, clicking and dragging won't let you do that. That will just zoom you in or out. Press the space bar and you see this little hand tool pop up. And now you can click and drag and move around so you can get to the proper spot of your photo. Okay, so click this little tab over here for detail with the two triangles. Skip sharpening for now, and we'll move to noise reduction. If you slide this luminance slider up, what happens is it starts to get rid of some of that noise. As it does that though, as you increase this, you can tell that everything gets a little bit softer. And that's what's happening. It's kind of blending everything together. And so it will become a little less sharp. Noise reduction and sharpening kind of combat with each other. So you almost have to pick what you want. Do you want it to be sharp or to remove noise? Because if you actually sharpen, you're going to be increasing the noise, which is the digital way of sharpening. But anyways, with noise reduction, it's a good idea to play around with this and see if there's a balance you like. Down below luminance, you have luminance detail and luminance contrast. So if you drag this to the left or to the right, it will try to increase the detail of your image, or it will say, okay, we'll give up some of the detail and decrease the noise more. So if I want my eyes to be a little sharper, I'll probably drag this to the right. And then luminance contrast, it will look at the edges of things and it will make it more contrasty. So it looks at exposure and colors, and it will decipher if there's like an edge. See where there's this edge with my hat and my forehead, and it will add more sort of detail, make it more contrasty, but in essence, it's adding more noise. So dragging this to the left, actually dragging both of these to the left will have the least amount of noise possible. And then dragging the overall luminance slider is sort of your master adjustment. You'll see here color. Color is a type of noise. If I drag this all the way to the left, you'll start to see all this color noise. Now, almost every photo automatically will have some color noise, but your camera, the way that it processes it, or the raw sort of standard adjustments, it already adds some color noise reduction. So if you want to get rid of more or you see more, you can continue to drag this to the right. But as you do that, you start to lose some color actually. If I go all the way to the right, you can see some of this becomes like desaturated. So you got to be careful with this. I usually just leave this at the standard 25. Again, like the luminance detail and contrast, you have color detail and smoothness, which affects sort of the size and the definition of the grain or the digital noise. So typically you leave that at 25. If for some reason it's not on, know that if you have all these colors, sliding this up will get rid of it. So that's with noise reduction, but say we want to make an image sharper. So this image, when I'm zoomed out, it looks kind of washed out and I might want a little bit more detail. I can zoom to fit in this window by clicking this drop down over here and choose fit in view. So it fills this whole window. With raw images, Photoshop will automatically add some sharpening to it. And that is totally natural, and you want it to add some sharpening because even in your photo, when you're shooting in RAW, it's going to actually be a little sharp and you'll need to add some sharpening. If you want to add more sharpening though, just drag the slider to the right. And now we're zoomed out so far, it's really hard to see. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom back in. And if I drag this to the left, all the way to the right, you can see that it starts to become sharper, but what's happening? It's adding back digital noise. And that's what I'm saying is that you have to kind of be careful about reducing noise and sharpening because they kind of combat each other. But say you don't have any noise to reduce. Say you have a nice, brightly lit, sunny day shot, but it's not as sharp as you want. you can increase the sharpening and add a little bit of grain, but you can live with it. Radius and detail are similar to these detail and contrast in the sense that radius will increase the size of the digital noise that is being added, and detail will try to look at the edges of things and make it finer or thicker, basically, so that the edges of things are more contrasty. If I zoom in here all the way, you can really see what detail is doing. It's adding a lot more sort of grain and making things more contrasty. With radius, if I drag to the left, it makes the grain smaller, to the right, bigger. With masking, it tries to blend these things together, tries to make things that are supposed to be more detailed, the things and colors that are kind of blending together, it loses that noise as much as possible. So this is a lot of sharpening that has been added. It's kind of to the extreme, but if you zoom out all the way, I mean, we're really zoomed in, you might be able to live with this. But if I'm doing this, I might want to decrease my noise reduction a little bit, something like that, and we're looking pretty darn good. So that's the detail panel for sharpening and noise reduction. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next lesson.